it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. It's the contagious power of hope.
But why? Why is she feeling so hopeless? Honestly, sincere question, why is Michelle Obama so hopeless? This multimillionaire who went to Princeton and Harvard Law School, who became First Lady of the United States, who thought so much of herself she called her own memoir Becoming, double entendre, get it? That she's hopeless? So how much is enough money, according to the Obamas? 70 million? Because public reports estimate that is their net worth.
Here's a shocking truth nobody wants to admit. The Democrats set themselves up to lose this election from the very start. And if you think that's harsh, wait until you see how the Obamas and other establishment heavyweights completely sabotaged their own party at the Democrat convention 4 months ago. Megyn Kelly's brutal takedown isn't just a critique. It's a full-blown scandal that exposes everything that went wrong behind the scenes. Now, as we revisit this moment, what it uncovers is nothing short of explosive. You won't believe how deep this mess runs.
Michelle Obama is going to be my focus. We'll get to Barack Obama too, but let's just start with Michelle. She was the star. With all due respect to Barack Obama, who's no slouch when it comes to oratory, she was the star. Normally, you have to pay $750,000 to hear her read a speech, but last night we got her for free. And she started out with a hefty dose of honesty.
We're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed America. Hope is making a comeback.
It doesn't seem like she's been enjoying the Biden-Harris year so much. You're not alone, Michelle. But why? Why is she feeling so hopeless? Honestly, sincere question, why is Michelle Obama so hopeless? This multimillionaire who went to Princeton and Harvard Law School, who became First Lady of the United States, who thought so much of herself she called her own memoir Becoming, double entendre, get it? That she's hopeless?
And here's where it gets downright insane. The Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 out of the last 16 years. That's a staggering 75%. Yet, it's the Obamas, Clintons, and Pelosi's who've turned the party into a fortress of insiders, reportedly pulling Joe Biden's strings from the shadows like puppeteers. And seriously, if you want to stay locked into the raw truth we break down every single day, don't sleep on hitting subscribe and ringing that notification bell. Now, who in their right mind thought slapping the theme of joy on the Democrats was a winning move? Here's the cold, hard reality. When 2/3 of Americans were convinced this country was careening off a cliff, with global conflicts raging, prices sky high, and borders in chaos, the last thing voters wanted was some cheesy, feel-good vibe. That so-called joy campaign, it was like fiddling on deck while the Titanic went down. And nothing screams tone-deaf louder than the disaster at the DNC, especially with Kamala Harris being shoved down everyone's throats. No primaries, no grassroots energy, just top-down orders from the party elite. And guess who was behind that? None other than the Obama's own kingpin, Barack himself, orchestrating the whole thing from behind the curtain.
Then she ended any doubt that Barack Obama was maneuvering behind the scenes to oust Joe Biden, which we knew, but they haven't admitted it explicitly. This is as close as we're going to get. Take a listen to how she's been feeling about Mr. Biden's candidacy.
To be honest, I am realizing that until recently, I have mourned the dimming of that hope. And maybe you've experienced the same feelings, is that deep pit in my stomach, a palpable sense of dread about the future.
Oh, wow. Thanks a lot, Michelle. Sure, that's what the Bidens were thinking. Not exactly a ringing endorsement of our sitting president. And what are the odds, for those of you still wondering what hand Obama had in this coup or this ouster, that Michelle Obama kept her feelings to herself, or that her husband didn't share in them, or that her husband saw Joe Biden's chances as absolutely terrific? All right. Anyway, they're happy now. Joyful, even. Word of the night, of the convention, of the election. Joyful. And, of course, on brand, hopeful.
It's painfully fake, isn't it? And Megyn Kelly isn't the only one calling out this charade. Even longtime Democrats like Joe Rogan, who once had nothing but respect for the Obamas, have now publicly admitted they've lost all faith in them. Why? Because the party completely missed the desperation boiling over in everyday America. Instead of connecting, they talk down to their own voters like elitist know-it-alls, deciding who should be the nominee, gaslighting the base with endless lectures on race and gender politics. There's no clearer example of this blatant hypocrisy than Michelle Obama's jaw-dropping sermon, telling hardworking Americans exactly how much money they're allowed to make before they supposedly become the bad guy. It's arrogance disguised as virtue, and the American people aren't buying it anymore.
That anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Folks who took more than they needed? Sounds kind of communist-y, Michelle. Later in the speech, she accused Republicans of, quote, prioritizing building their wealth over ensuring that everyone has enough. See, Michelle and Kamala want to decide when you have enough. How much wealth is enough for you? And it's not until others have enough. But in America, we encourage people to work hard on the promise that anything is possible. The American dream is you can make more of your life than you started out with. There's no addendum that says, once you have what, quote, you need, what the government deems, quote, enough, you need to stop, per the U.S. government.
Honestly, that statement is way more chilling than most realize. When you zoom out and look at history, it's downright shocking to hear American politicians spout straight-up communist slogans without a hint of shame or irony. What Michelle said echoes Karl Marx himself, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. But that's the exact opposite of the American dream, a dream built on freedom, opportunity, and personal responsibility. And now, we have a government acting like it gets to decide your ability and need for you. And don't think this is just one rogue voice. This toxic mindset runs deep in today's Democratic Party, infecting figures all the way from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to Kamala Harris. It's not a coincidence. It's a disturbing trend that's reshaping the entire political landscape.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place.
I'm honestly stunned no one's confronted her head-on about this. Let's get one thing straight. Equity isn't some noble ideal. Chasing total equity, equality of outcome, is nothing less than a totalitarian communist fantasy. What's actually fueled America's rise is equality of opportunity, the very foundation the Democrats claim to stand for. But here's the kicker. The very people preaching this rhetoric never live by it themselves. The Obamas, they're sitting on a fortune north of $70 million, raking in obscene speaking fees for just minutes on stage. According to Newsweek, their net worth skyrocketed dramatically both before and after Biden's election. Talk about preaching one thing and living another. The hypocrisy is staggering.
Barack Obama later admitted on camera that, quote, I do think at a certain point you've made enough money. That's how these people think. They adorn this principle in nice language like, we need to make sure everyone has enough. And what they mean is they need to take money from the people who have worked hard and succeeded and give it to others who may not have worked hard in comparison, who may not have done anything. Yes, there may be some people who have fallen on hard times, and we have a social safety net for them. But this mindset is a little socialistic. That's the truth. And that's why Tim Walz, by the way, is the perfect running mate for Kamala. So how much is enough money, according to the Obamas? 70 million? Because public reports estimate that is their net worth, parlayed on the back of Barack Obama's 14 years of holding political office. He did not spend 50 years in government service. He did a stint in the Illinois State Senate. He did a couple years in the U.S. Senate before he ran for office and won. All right, then he did 2 terms as president. And off of that, he's made himself over $100 million, almost $100 million, probably over, to be honest. We don't know all of the earnings. The Obamas reportedly own 4 luxury properties. A home in Martha's Vineyard, estimated to be worth some $20 million, in addition to properties in Washington, D.C., reportedly bought for $8.1 million, a beachfront home in Hawaii, reportedly bought for $8.7 million, and a home bought in Chicago for $1.65 million. Is that more than you need, Mr. Obama? Mrs. Obama?
Is it really any shock that Americans have completely tuned out this tired, empty rhetoric? If the Democrat establishment or their strategists have even a shred of common sense left, they'd scrap this whole failing script and start listening to what the country actually wants. But until that moment comes, all we'll get are tone-deaf speeches echoing inside their own bubble and crushing losses at the polls, time after time. I want to hear your take. Drop your thoughts in the comments on what this all means looking back. And seriously, share this with any Democrat voters you know to see how they react. Because honestly, 5 months after the DNC, there's been zero sign that this party is ready to change its tune. Not one. The bottom line, until the Democrats wake up and stop living in their own fantasy world, they'll keep losing the American people's trust, and the White House along with it. Change isn't just overdue, it's absolutely critical. Because in politics, ignoring reality isn't just risky, it's a guaranteed path to irrelevance. If you found this eye-opening, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the real story behind the headlines. Stay tuned. The truth is just getting started.